everyone. Welcome to another episode of Apologetically Me. I'm Maggie.
I'm Wanda.
That took way too long for you to remember your name, Wanda.
What? I said it right away. I've been
No,
practicing.
you didn't.
I've been practicing speaking slower because when I did a practice presentation and my group was like, "You talk so fast," and I was like, "Really? This is my slow voice."
Damn.
So
I do not think you talk fast at all. Anyway, so if you didn't watch our last episode, just to give you an update, Jordan technically won last episode between the battle for Wanda. We said that whoever lost would give up the podcast and whoever won would resume as the host. But considering today's theme is a little bit cultural, he has decided to not risk being canceled and has handed over his prize to me, Maggie. Thanks, Jordan. Special call out for you.
but stay tuned next
Anyways.
week where Maggie's officially gone.
Maggie gets replaced? That's a new clickbait. So Wanda, what's new in quarantine? What's poppin'?
So as of the last few weeks, I think that me and Maggie are slowly morphing into the exact same person because there seems to be like conversations that she has separately where like I don't know them in real life, but then I'll message her about the exact same topic. And it feels like I'm watching her. Like, for example, I think this one time I brought up something about The Bachelor, and she's like, "Oh my God, me and my mom were just talking about this specific thing that happened in The Bachelor." And then we'll say the exact same things to like different people or like to the same person about the same context. So like yesterday, we both like started playing a game called Don't Starve together on Steam, and when Jordan added us as a friend, both of us were like, "Oh, my first friend." And then but like neither of us knew like what the other person said. It just happened naturally. And then like there's been so many different, I guess, times where just like we either say the same thing or we're thinking about the same thing. So I feel like we're in each other's heads now. And eventually we're just going to morph into one person. And we've kind of like discussed this where like taking care of like one person would probably be cheaper than having to take care of two people. But we also wouldn't be
Cheaper
able to
funeral.
drink anything except
Oh yeah,
water
true.
and bubble tea.
We do not have the same taste in drinks. Or guys, really. There's just a lot of things we don't have the same thing in, but it would be convenient for everyone else if we just morphed into one person. I
Yeah.
think it's been happening a lot lately, like maybe since we started the podcast, but everything I'm thinking about, or like I'm talking to you, I'm like, whoa, why were you just thinking that too? Like, this is really spooky. This happened so many times. And I think it's only grew more since we started this together.
Yeah, especially because like we don't really hang out much like outside of this.
Stay home, folks.
Yeah. So like we haven't even seen each other for like months. So like it's kind of weird that we're growing closer. I guess that's good, right?
That's just in, folks. Long distance relationships can work. Don't break up with your significant other just yet.
How to stay connected without being together.
Yeah, pro tip, start a podcast. Make you guys closer.
Yeah, be one of
I
the
think
thousands of other people who have also started one.
yeah, we're pretty unoriginal. I think all 20-year-olds think they have like new enlightened information to share. But we are actually the OG of all the 20-year-olds, okay? Even though we started 2021.
Okay, what is your, I guess, a good thing of quarantine this week?
Um, it was my birthday on February 4th. I am turning 24 for the second time. It's pretty nice. Like I wasn't expecting anything, and usually for my birthday every year or anyone's birthday really with our friends, like we just go out to a restaurant, we eat, we do an activity. So this year was a little bit quiet, but people still like surprised me. Like they dropped off cakes here and there. Yeah, I ended up getting like 3 cakes on my birthday. I'm thinking maybe because I've been so moody this week, it's either one, my midlife crisis coming together, two, all the bad food, or three, just not enough sleep. Any of those 3 things. Could be all 3 of them.
It's
We'll see.
okay, so two comments about that. First, it's I was well, okay, three comments. So I was not one of the people who dropped off a cake. But I did say happy birthday on our
Boo.
mutual Twitter account, so I feel like that was even better too. Maggie does not seem to sleep that much. Every time I mess like I have class, and most days I don't have class until like after 11:30. So I can go to sleep later. But Maggie's still up at 2 a.m. And then on the one day I do have an 8:30 class, like I message her, she's up at like 8 a.m. So it's like she sleeps for like a maximum of 6 hours every single night, and I don't know how she survives.
Or maybe I just have special sounds on for when you message me, Wanda. Did you think about that?
To just wake up in the middle of your sleep cycle just to
Just to
respond to
reply
my
to
message
you.
and then go back to bed.
My messages to you are like screenshots of TikToks because I know you won't actually watch them, or like a screenshot of a meme that I think is really funny.
Yeah, like
So
a
the fact that
lot.
I'll wake up in the middle of the night, just be like, I gotta send this to Wanda.
A lot of the time, like I wake up and it's like a link to like a meme or like a link to like a TikTok where you're like LOL. Okay, and then the third thing is like it's funny because I've also been very moody this week. So this just goes back to the whole I think we're
Hmm.
becoming the same person.
Dude, dude, this is spooky.
Yeah.
Damn. Wow, we are truly in sync.
So
Okay, everyone, pro tip, go start a podcast.
also
But
stop being
also,
moody so then I can stop being
yes.
moody.
Hopefully tomorrow is when it will stop, but we will see. Anyway, so happy Lunar New Year. I think this will be coming out on the Thursday when Lunar New Year is. It's the year of the ox. We wish all of you guys good fortune, good health, good happiness, to everyone who celebrates, to everyone who doesn't. Happy Lunar New Year.
Kane said it best on Empire Bling, where the new year is about, or like the white new year, where it's like the start of a new year for, I guess, like North America and everywhere else that's not Asia, is like, oh, you have to try to improve yourself or whatever. But like on New Year, you mostly just get money. So it's the more
I
superior
love
new
it.
year.
I was actually talking to my mom about the money thing because I was like, "Oh, I'm like pretty old now, Mom. When do you stop giving me money?" And she said, "Oh, there's not really, I guess, an age to stop. I guess when you have your own kids or something is when we'd stop giving you Lunar New Year money."
And then
So I
they
was
give it
like,
to your
"Oh
kids.
shit." Yeah, but I'm like, I could potentially be getting Lunar New Year money till I'm 30. Is that a good thing? A bad thing? Like, I'm still seen as a kid, but I'm getting the money, so maybe I'll just embrace this.
I think it's very optimistic for you to think that you're going to have kids in 5 years.
I'm 24. What are you saying? That was another savage burn from Wanda to me. She does this to me like twice a week. It's fine.
I
At
just
least we
think
have it on the record.
I think we should start setting realistic expectations. Maybe within the
Uh,
next 10 years. I think that's a good period of time for you to.
this is a letter to future Maggie in 10 years if you don't have kids yet, or okay, you don't have to have kids, but I personally do want kids. So, Maggie, in 10 years, if you don't have kids, please consider adopting or doing something in that
Aw,
area.
a letter to future Wanda. You were right. That's it.
That's the contents of the letter. That's it. Just you're right.
Yeah, want to make sure that future Wanda knows that.
Okay, this is my letter to future Wanda. Dear future Wanda, you're wrong.
Well, one of us is gonna be right. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll dig this up in 10 years. We'll put it
we'll
in a
we'll
time
clip this
capsule.
together in 10
Yeah.
years. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, moving on to what the beef. Bow bow bow. Wanda,
Mhm.
tell the people what beef you got going on.
Okay. So there was a lot to choose from this week, but the winner is going to be my beef with Jordan. He made me have a timeout on his stream and yet continues to talk about how I don't watch his streams enough. When I do watch it, he times me out for 10 minutes where I couldn't type or anything because he said I said something mean, even though
What? What
it
did you
wasn't. I
say?
think I said something like, "Oh, like 3 days later, still coding," which, like, I don't think was that
Which is
mean.
true. I don't
Yeah,
think it's mean. He's doing it this week too.
exactly. So I was just stating a fact, but apparently that hurt his feelings. So then I was given a timeout to think
Wait,
about my
he gave you a timeout
actions.
or the other mods did?
No, he gave me a timeout.
Oh my god.
And he said he wanted need to take the time to reflect on my actions because what I said was mean.
Oh, he
Oh,
played Minecraft without you. That was
yes.
another thing.
That was the other thing. So if you wanted to go visit his Twitch channel at Jordan, he was, I think, on Friday. I mean, this there's no concept of time in this podcast, but on a day that he was streaming, he like gave up and he was like, I'm gonna go speedrun Minecraft. But he was always like, oh, I'm never gonna play Minecraft without you. This is like our game.
So,
And then he was
what
like,
else has he lied to you about, Wanda? We
I
need to
know,
know.
right? Like remember the whole like Leo and like Libra like trust thing where it was like
40% really
40%.
coming in here.
And Jordan was like, "Oh, what do you mean? Of course we trust each other. We're not sketchy people. I'm taking that back. I think he is a sketchy person, and now 40% trust I think is way too high."
To pile on to that, Jordan is also my honorary. He's not my actual Beef of the Week, but he is my honorary mention for Beef of the Week. For context, he gave me permission to run his Twitter account for 24 hours. Actually, he didn't set a time limit, but it just happened to be 24 hours. And they were pretty funny, I think. I think I had some really good quality tweets in there. Some of them were iffy, but like I'm trying to grow his Twitch following. And then he lets me know by publicly firing me on his Twitter. You can go check it out at Jord Didn't. So he publicly fired me, roasted me, was like, you can't do this. You keep tweeting at my favorite streamers, embarrassing me. And realistically, they're not gonna see this. So he so he removed me, and since then he lost 2 followers on Twitter. So take that, Jordan.
You had some like really funny tweets too. Like
Thank you.
definitely some questionable ones, but I think like
Is it the JoJo Siwa one? Is that the
yeah.
question?
And the one that you deleted with like I'm new here with like
Oh yeah, I tried to turn him into an uwu girl.
you can see all of this
Nice.
on his Twitter.
Nice. Don't follow him though. Just go look at it and then follow our podcast instead.
Yes.
Don't follow him. Hey Wanda, who is your honorable mention?
Riverdale. I actually don't watch Riverdale. I tried watching Riverdale for one season, but it was just so bad. Like I don't know. Like I don't even know how to describe that as bad, but I once heard that Riverdale was supposed to be a social experiment to see what people would watch as long as the people were attractive without any having any kind of plot of some sort. But there was this tweet that Maggie showed me.
Let me read it out.
Yeah.
It's Riverdale season 5 will now be set 7 years into the future, where Archie goes to war, Betty joins the FBI, Jughead becomes a writer, and Veronica gets married.
So all of these are occupations except marriage.
Veronica.
So why is it that her like sole thing in 7 years, all she has done is get married and has accomplished apparently nothing else worth mentioning?
So when I was watching the trailer, okay, I didn't actually watch it, but TikTok showed it to me. But I thought this tweet was like super fake. Like, there's no way this is legit. And then it flash forward to the trailer, and it's Archie dressed in World War One attire. Not even like normal modern day army. I don't know what war is going on either. I don't know why Betty. It looks like she got Silence of the Lambs. Like she was kidnapped or taken hostage or something. And the trailer was like, Betty, you've gone through significant trauma, and it's just like flashes of her like trapped somewhere. So I'm like, what is happening to this show? Is it ending? Can it end now? I'm begging. This is my official plea to the writers of Riverdale to end the show.
This would make sense if 7 years later it was like 1918. Like the year 1918.
Yeah.
And that would be the only way that this show would make sense, where marriage can be an actual career for a woman.
Let's hope so. Let's hope that's the plot twist.
Moving on from my beef, what is your beef?
Thank you. Beef torch is on me. So, we are avid fans of the Try Guys. Let me paint you a picture. So, Keith Habersberger, before in a YouTube video, was like, all of Twitter is just blah, 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 commentary, joke, joke. Which is very true. But recently, our idol, our podcast gremlin, came out with a very strange tweet the other day. Every once in a while, I try to be one of those super cool, like, tech lifestyle dudes who is very clean, cold showering, and has iron jeans. But then I remembered that I'm a little goblin boy that eats pasta in the tub. What's your favorite spaghetti? Like, oh, obviously, what the heck is going on here? So we reply, Miles, what is this tweet and why do I love it so much? Just to like keep up the banter. He liked it. It still comes down to, and my family friend Christina was telling me this too, that Miles is stealing Keith's brand. So my beef of the week is Miles. Miles, notice us. We love you, but come on, stop stealing Keith's brand, man. Be original, Miles.
Maggie would probably have that like framed. She as soon as she got it, she
Yes.
sent me a screenshot of the notification, and Maggie often makes the exact same kind of joke with commentary joke. What was that? Commentary joke question or whatever?
It's blah blah joke commentary.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cuz Maggie makes those often. If you check out her Twitter feed, there are a few
Yeah.
comments just like that.
I wish I could stop expressing my emotions in memes. I wish I could stop. Like, I am self aware enough to know that I keep doing this and it's my formula for some reason, but I need to stop.
I wish we
And
were
Miles,
funny
we.
without memes.
Yes. This is why I've regressed so much as a human being since quarantine. I can't talk to people anymore, and now I just say, hey, let me show you this meme to show you how I really feel.
That's so funny. It's like you're in this like traumatic moment and you're just like showing pictures of memes to express how you feel.
Therapy in 2021.
You know that like Squidward, like handsome Squidward versus regular Squidward? Yeah, that's the meme that I feel right now. I am regular Squidward.
Am I handsome Squidward?
No, I think though everyone else is handsome Squidward. I'm just trying to express sadness here.
Okay.
Is that who's in your background?
No. That's that old guy in the
Oh,
stock photos who
Harold?
looks really uncomfortable. That's his name?
I'm pretty sure. Or I
Aw.
no, I think no, not his actual name. I think the meme's called Uncomfortable Harold or something.
Oh, yeah, that's uncomfortable, Harold. Me and him are both uncomfortable with this. It says, you're probably wondering why I called you here today, which is something Nick says a lot. He sits at
That's
the head of the table and he'll just say that to his friends. I
Oh,
don't
no, it's
know.
called Hide the Pain Harold.
Aw, that's even worse. Sorry, Harold. We love you.
He is actually living his best life.
Do you think he made money off being a meme?
I don't think so. I think he got paid for the stock photo and that was it. Like he's like happy that he did it and he's happy he became a
Aw,
meme. Yeah.
go him. Anyways, so today's topic is we get a little serious this time around. Our topic is we're not Asian enough. So basically, what we're gonna do is talk about our backgrounds, our cultural upbringings. What was that like for us? Did we feel like we lost our culture? Any microaggressions we felt? And Asian representation, because that's always important. So, Wanda, tell the people what your background is.
What do you mean by my background?
Like, where did you come from before your mom's uterus?
So there's
Wait,
a
that didn't make sense.
there's a
Let me
hole in
let
the
me rephrase that. We're not gonna tell our viewers this part of it. Where are you from?
I think I'm just like this is my usual answer, I guess, when people ask me where I'm from. I'm like, what do you mean where I'm from? And then they have to like try to
Yes.
explain to me what they're trying to get at, but
Do
I
you know
know.
that Parks and Rec thing where Leslie is like, "So Tom, where are you from?" And he's like, "South Carolina." And she was like, "Where are you from before that?" And he was like, "My mom's uterus."
That was like the
Is this like that?
bad Parks and Recreation. That was like we don't talk about what happened
That
before
was
season
that
2.
was BB before Ben.
Yes. Before BBC, before Ben and Chris.
Chris. True. It was a cultural reset. But
Yeah.
anyways, tell the people what your background is. Where were
So
you born?
according to my 23andMe, I am 99 point, I think 9% Asian, predominantly in mainland China. I think 88% mainland, like 12% Korean. That's a rough estimation. I haven't looked at it for a while, but I was born in China in the province of Adian, and I came to Canada when I was 3 years old in April of 2000.
Feels like just yesterday.
Yeah, it does actually. Like even though it was 20
You
years
you
ago.
remember like coming here that vividly?
No, I actually don't, but like my mom and my dad have told me stories about it. So, oh, actually this is kind of like a wholesome story. So, um when I used to be like a huge crier back in China. Like wherever I go to a new place, nonstop crying the entire night. Like they could not, for some reason, put me to sleep if I was just like at my grandmother's or like somewhere else other than like home. And even when I was at home, I would cry. But then on the plane ride to like Canada, I did not cry once. There was like a child, I guess another child like behind us a few rows back, and they were crying, and I would just like look up and like look at them, just be like, "Oh, this is a weird thing." And then like I either spent the entire time sleeping or like being fully okay. And then the whole like crying thing like stopped. Like I still cried a little, but like not nowhere as much as I used to. There's this thing where like my parents are always like, you were meant to come here or whatever. Like this was your
Aw.
destiny because it's like it like changed you for the better.
Maybe it's like you got a taste of your own medicine on the plane and you were like, wow, this is really annoying. I need to stop this too.
And that's the earliest time where I stopped liking children when I was 3 years old and there was a crying baby.
When I was 3, I hated the other 3-year-olds.
Yes. Where are you from?
I was born in Canada. My parents are Vietnamese, so they came here in 1994, I want to say. So they had my older brother. They wanted to start a better life. They came to Canada. They had me and then my younger brother. So I have the fortune of saying I am Vietnamese Canadian. That's how I say it. Do you say you're Chinese Canadian or you just say you're Chinese? When people ask. Does
I
it ever
just
come up for you?
I just say I'm Canadian. I don't think I guess that's part of it too. Like I never really say I'm Chinese Canadian. Like that doesn't like people say Chinese American or like Asian American, but I say I'm
Yeah, I've never heard the
Asian.
Canadian part, but I identify strongly with Vietnamese and Canadian. Like my parents always say, like, I'm gonna send you back home if you're bad. Or something like that. Like they can't physically send me home because this is my home. They can't deport me. At heart, like Vietnam is our home.
That's really funny because you were born here, you literally have not even like a passport that would like you would have to apply for
Yes,
like a
that'd be
visa and
funny.
everything to go back. So
And they'd be like, no, you cannot be here.
that's so funny. The threat of deportation, even though it's not really like you weren't even born there.
Yeah, so would you say you're fluent in Mandarin?
I would not. I would say I'm fluent in Chinglish, which is Chinese
Nice.
and English, where the more like unknown the situation is, the more my like Mandarin regresses and I can't speak at all. Like I just can't think of
I
the
feel
words
that.
as quickly. But like if I'm at home, like Mandarin comes more naturally, but then I'll forget a word and I'll just automatically substitute it in English rather than trying to like think hard about it and like say it in Mandarin.
But also, I think you're more fluent in Mandarin than I am in Vietnamese.
Which is weird because I would say the exact opposite.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I hear you speak and I'm like, wow, I wish I was that
We
fluent.
just don't understand each other's
I am
languages whatsoever.
I am in my family, like my Vietnamese is better than my younger brothers, but still compared to like the other Vietnamese Canadian kids, my Vietnamese is like pretty rough. At home, I speak like my mom will speak Vietnamese to me, but I will reply in English. Or if the translation isn't there, then I will reply in Vietnamese. But I speak Vietnamese so rarely, like to my other family members at work, maybe. And that's like the extent of my Vietnamese. Other than that, English. My Vietnamese has gone so bad through the years, but I will, well, if I have kids, they're going to be raised bilingual. Like they will be forced to learn Vietnamese.
I've thought about that and it's like I hated going to Chinese school when I was younger. Like it was Saturday mornings at 8:30. Even when I was a kid, I was not a morning person. And the
I'm
first
so
time
jealous.
my parents took me, I cried so hard and like they had to like push me into the classroom because I
Oh
was
my
like
god.
hanging onto the doorway just like not wanting to go in, just bawling my eyes out because I didn't want to go. And I feel like that should have been like the first sign that I was like maybe they shouldn't put me into like Chinese school, but they still
Wait, how old
continued.
were you?
I think I was like
Did you say 14?
no, grade 3. So
Oh, so like 8 years oldish.
yeah. So it wasn't like an
7 or 8.
outrageous like you could still cry at that
This was
age.
actually when I was 18. It's still acceptable to cry, yes.
Yes. So it was like I mean, it was like now that I think back, it was like if you're like an older kid and you're just watching this 8-year-old just like cry her eyes out because she didn't want to go, it's like so embarrassing now that I think about it, but I have no regrets because I still feel the same way. Which is why it's like, yes, I would like, if I had a kid, I would like to teach it Mandarin, but I would like to teach it not in, I guess, a Chinese school setting on a Saturday
Mm.
morning at 8:30.
I would always be so jealous of like you and our other friends who said they had Chinese school because I was like, damn, I wish I had like Vietnamese school or something. Like growing up, I think we had similar situations growing up. Like we grew up in the same city, like predominantly like white community. I was always for a long time like the only Asian kid that I knew or the
Mhm.
only Vietnamese person that I knew. So I was like, wow, like to be around other people that must be so great. Even now our city right now, like one of the high schools, it has a lot of Asian kids and I'm still like wow like I'm a little jealous of that because I wish I saw like people more like me out there or like similar upbringings. I think we would have had a lot in common and I wouldn't have had like so many identity crises growing up.
Even now, like your immediate friend group, no one else is like Viet.
Yeah, what the hell. Anyway, so what was your earliest memory of realizing that you were different or not like the other white kids growing up?
I want to say like grade two, grade one, maybe even kindergarten. I don't, I can't like, it was young. Like I was very young and it was like back in the day, it was like where we're from was very, very like white. Like it was very, like there was no other like races here. And like only in the last maybe like now I would say 10 years, like has more like different like cultures and like different types of people have moved into this place. So back then, like when you saw like like Asian food didn't really exist. Like there was no like sushi restaurants, there was no like Chinese restaurants or anything. So like I think when I was younger, I would bring like Chinese food as like leftovers for lunch or something, and then like the kids would like make fun of me for it because they're like, "Oh my god, like what's that?" and stuff. And then like I like ended up forcing my parents to like make me like sandwiches instead because it
Oh
wasn't
my
weird, which is like so terrible if you think about it because it's like my food is like so much better than like what sandwiches were. And like I talked to my old roommate about it and she was like I had the exact same experience when I was growing up and she lived in a like a completely different city like an hour away.
I don't know what it's like for kids now, but I'm hoping that it got better, that no one else has to go through what we did. Not that we went through like significant trauma or pain, but it's still like it's still like scarring enough that you remember it to this day.
Yeah. I think only recently I've started like reflecting on things that have happened and been like, "Oh, maybe that wasn't right." And could like, you know, like you when you were growing up, you're kind of like you just accepted it and you're just like, "Yeah, this is the way that's always been." And then like I think I didn't start bringing like Chinese food as like lunch until like grade 10 or grade 11. Probably like it took me like 10 years maybe to start doing it again.
My earliest memory, I think it's a little bit tricky because I've always loved Barbies growing up. And they're, like Barbies are always blonde, they're so skinny, tall, white. And I remember thinking, like, when I was maybe like a 6 or something like that, like, oh, I'm so ugly because I don't have blonde hair. Or like I'm never gonna be like that white. Like this sucks. Or something like that. And I was genuinely very upset because of that. And I don't think I ever noticed at school that I wasn't like the other kids. I just knew that I was a little bit uglier because I'm not like them. Like I look a little bit different, but no one ever acknowledged it until I think like elementary school kind of
Mhm.
when the teachers would say to me, like when it was Lunar New Year, they'd say Gung Hei Fat Choi to me. And I was just nodding and I was like, I don't know what that means. What the hell? And they were like, that means Happy New Year to you and your family. And I said, okay, thanks. And I just like didn't say anything about it. But now looking back, I'm like, that kind of racist? Did they
Yes.
just assume I was Chinese? Like, why did they say that to me?
And it's also like it's there's two different there's like Cantonese and Mandarin and they spoke to you in Cantonese. So that's like that's an assumption in itself too.
Yeah, so it was very weird growing up in such like a white environment too. And I don't know about you, but I went through a phase where it was both like noticing I was Asian and I wanted to be the one who wasn't like the butt of the joke. So where I would like make Asian jokes or like very racist jokes, internalize it, and be like, look, I'm the first one to say it. Now you can't say it. Or another thing I did was like, I rejected being Asian or rejected Vietnamese, where I was like, I'm only going to be like white. I'm going to show people that I'm like the whitest person they know so that they can't say anything about me. I think I went through like those two phases when I was growing up.
I think like definitely for the second one. I don't think I did much of the first one. I think I ended up being more of like the butt of the like I guess racist joke, especially in like grade 6, 7. Like it was a very I guess white
Me
school.
too, yeah. Oh god, middle school. I
Oh,
think that's why like we both hated middle school so much.
yeah. It was just everyone was so like well like for my middle school everyone grew up together like they went through kindergarten all the way to like all through elementary school together so they've been friends for like 10 years or something and they're all very cliquey. So it was very like it was more difficult to make friends because of that and then like when you're like the I guess the butt of their jokes then it's like even harder to like the whole like the dental floss joke and everything and like the
Wait, what? What's a dental
have
floss
you not
joke?
heard that where it's like oh like how do you blind an Asian person you put dental floss around like across their eyes
Ow, why would you do
because
that?
the joke is like there's like it's squint
Oh,
your
like it's
eyes are
thin enough. Yeah.
yeah and then like the whole like they would like move like they would like move their eyes to like pull them out and everything and be like have you not heard that okay.
I know like the squinty eye thing, but I don't know the dental floss thing. That's
They
new.
also like they would pull their hand up to their eye and be like, "Oh, like Chinese, Japanese, like
Yeah. Oh yeah,
all
yeah, I
that
remember that.
stuff." That was like really rampant in my middle school. But then the whole like trying to be more white made me like I guess give up a lot of like Asian culture as well. Cuz like even now, like me and Maggie are pretty basic.
Yeah, maybe involuntarily basic, but yeah, I see what you mean. I will say though, like it progressively got better with every year. Like elementary school sucked, middle school sucked, high school got better. Like I met more people who were Asian, like more diverse, and I think that's when it started to change a little bit. Where I was like, holy shit, there's so many people of color here. Like we all had the same experiences growing up. Like they're not the same, but it was still enough where we all like bonded over something. Like we all had okay, not to be like over general, but the kids I grew up with, they had very low expectations. Like good grades weren't expected of them. Like they didn't have to go home and work or clean or anything. Like they had very little responsibility. So when I went into a high school where it was like other people like me, the expectation was just like mine, like high grades, like you have responsibilities to do, like you're going to be a good kid. Like you're going to be average, you're not going to be like less responsible kids. So it was very nice to see like people like me in high school and university.
To be fair, people in high school, like we went to a school that had like a international baccalaureate program, which is also known as IB, which is like what you go to if you are like you want to, I guess, excel academically, like because the classes are like harder or whatever, and you have to apply to get in and everything. So like I feel like that definitely made like the
Made
people
us a
who
little bit more competitive.
yeah, like the people who went there were definitely people who wanted to like achieve more so, I guess, than like the average person. So that I think that contributed to it as well.
Do you feel like you lost your culture over time? Like do you resent how much Chinese culture you lost? Do you think you have a good amount now?
Mm, I feel like I could still have more. Like I feel like I did lose like a lot because like trying to be, I guess, basic was like a defense mechanism that to like stop getting to be like not bullied and everything like that. So then now it's just like it's become who I am. And only like in the last few years have I kind of just been like, I guess, more accepting of like the other side of me.
Would you say that like the trying to be white part set in for you? At what age?
Honestly, I don't think it happened until like, how old am I? 24. I don't think it happened until I was like 22.
When you were trying to be more white?
No, no, no. Oh, wait, no. Like that was only when I noticed.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I think like when I was like trying to be more like would be probably like
I think
grade
high school for me.
for me, it was probably like grade 3 or like grade 2.
Mm.
It like happened like very young. Like I kept on trying to like adapt.
I think I don't know like a certain age for me. I just knew it yo-yoed a lot between trying to lean into the Asian jokes or trying to be white. And I know like in high school too, I forget who, like one of those like typical mean girls was just like I heard her offhand, she was like, "Oh, like all the Asians like blend together. I don't know who's who. They all look the same." And that's when I was like, "Oh, like what do you mean we look the same? Like we all look very different. We all have very different personalities." That's I don't know what that means. And at the time I didn't realize that was a racist thing to say. So I internalized that where I was like, "Oh, I'm going to like try to be more like have more of a personality or try to be less Asian, like distance myself from that."
Mhm.
And like, "Oh, okay, like the stuff I used to like I loved K-pop. I still love K-pop." But I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to like quiet that down. Like I'm going to reject like all the stuff that made me Asian and just try to be full white. That way people will know that it's me and not just a clump of Asians."
I think that even still happens now. It's like, why is it that like, oh, you can go like see a white person and be like, oh, that person's like Scandinavian or that person's like Eastern European or whatever, but then you can't even tell the difference between like a Chinese person versus a Korean person versus a Japanese person. Each one of those places are like, I guess, to have like a significant difference in how like someone could look or like how like they dress and whatever. But like same with like I guess Asia. Like there's a lot of differences in like Japanese culture and Chinese culture and Koreans. Like they look different. They like of course some people are like for example, me, people are like used to like a lot of Asians were like, oh, like they would speak to me in Korean because they thought I was Korean, which I don't blame them because I'm partly Korean, 12% ish. So like I get it, but like you can't just say like you can't go to Maggie and be like, so you're Chinese, right?
Don't call me Chinese because I am Vietnamese.
But also it does not matter and you don't really need to ask.
Yeah, I don't see. I mean, so I know now in the workplace you can't really ask people where are you from, but I get the interest where it's like I want to know what your background is. I think that would be cool. Like when I meet other Vietnamese people, I'm like, oh, cool. Like you're Vietnamese too. Do you like this? Do you like this? I don't know if you do that too, or maybe you don't.
I do not know. I find that in itself a little bit racist because you're just assuming because
Okay, fair.
they're because they're
I
Viet,
mean,
they're gonna share the same things that you like.
I did that to other people who I would ask if they were Vietnamese. Like I remember in high school a lot, I would always get very excited when I saw other Asian people and I wanted to see if there was any Vietnamese people. Not so much these days. I guess you're right. To a certain point, I don't really care anymore. And if like it really mattered, we would or the thing like we talk about I think would come up. Like if we're talking about food, then they would tell me their background and be like, we used to eat this a lot, like growing up or something like that. That's when I thought it was cool.
I don't think it needs to come up like unnaturally in a conversation, like it unless it's like pertinent to the conversation. So there was one time when I was like I was working and I was like talking about some work stuff to someone and then like out of the blue they interrupt me and they're like, "So where are you from?" And I'm like, "Sorry, what do you mean?" Oh, like where I commute from? I'm from like, oh, it's like a 45-minute like commute away. I take the train. And they're like, "No. Like where are you from?" I'm like,
My mother's uterus.
like it was just so out of the blue where it's like we were talking about work and then like you just had to like interrupt me firstly to diverge the
Mm.
conversation to like ask me this. Like it didn't like why do you care? Like why do you need to know? Like what about it was like we
He
weren't
just straight up
talking.
wasn't listening to you. He was
Probably.
just like, I'm gonna do my own thing. She's boring me.
He was like probably looking like he was probably like not even listening and he was just looking at me and being like, huh, I wonder what her background is. And then just like could not figure it out. So I just ended up asking. That's not good. Don't do that. It seems very harmless, someone asking because like they're curious, but also it's very annoying because it's like something that we've had to like you no one out like you don't ask anyone else this question. That's the thing.
I think what annoys me is it has nothing to do with like what our conversation was or like what is the benefit for you to know? Like why does it matter? That kind of thing. Like I'm not gonna ask you what your blood type is.
Appropriate times to know when we're sharing
Yes.
23andMe results.
Yes. Yeah, read the room. Would you say you still get like a decent number of racist questions, like pre-COVID,
um
of racist things happening to you or passive aggressive?
Less so. I think the last time I can really remember something, I was working and like I would take like I was doing like customer service, so I'd like take the phones and everything. And then this lady comes in and she's like, "Oh, were you the one speaking on the phone?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Your English is really good." And I'm like, "Thanks, I grew up here."
I get those kinds of questions like all the time, and it's very, very annoying. I would say like those types of questions come to me like once a month. I think. This white guy once came into like my place and he was like, "Oh, like me and you, like we had the same upbringing." And I was like, "What? This is a white man." He's like, people don't treat us the same. Like I'm from England, you're from wherever you are. Like we both look different. Like people are gonna be racist to us." I was like, "What the fuck? Like you are a white man. What do you mean?" And I was just like, "You know what? I'm just gonna nod. I'm not gonna lecture him this. I don't get paid enough for this. Whatever. Say whatever you want."
We need to start like calling people out about this
I'm
stuff.
too shy.
I know, that's the thing though, especially when you're working and stuff. Like you don't want to like cause like an issue, right? Like wasn't there like a person who came in who thought you were your mom, even though your mom's like at least 30 years older
Yes.
than you are?
Yes. Like we look very different. Um yeah, they were trying to gaslight me too. They were like, "No, like I was for sure talking to you on the phone. That wasn't your mom. I know what your mom sounds like." And then my mom comes out and she was like, "Oh yeah, I was just talking to you on the phone." And the guy doesn't even apologize. He's like, "Oh, okay." And he continues. Okay, before COVID, I would say it happened to me a lot. Every time we went downtown of our city, like some stranger would just say something racist to me. Like ching chong, they would ask me where I'm from, something about my eyes, something like that. I like to think that maybe after the Black Lives Matter movement and everything, maybe people will be more sensitive, but I think I don't know if it's gonna happen.
Wait, no, no, no.
No?
Before you go there, I'm gonna come back to
Okay.
this because I have something I want to comment about that. But I just remembered that when I think we were around like 15 or 16, we went to like Toronto, which is like the big city near us, and I was with like two of like our friends, and
Not me? What the
no,
hell?
I don't think you were there. So, this one friend who is now in like med school, she was just walking and I guess she wasn't paying attention where she was going and she like kind of like she almost ran into like this guy who was like I think he was like Filipino, but he he would got so angry at her and he was like watch where you're going, you like chink, like open your eyes, like if you can't like if you can't like watch where you're going, you should go back to your country and everything. And she was like so rattled by it because like we were
He's
what
Filipino.
he was yeah. And like we were like fifth maybe like 16, 17 at the time and like young girl this like 30-year-old guy just yelling at her and then just like he like stormed off in anger.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and then the other thing was like in I guess February of last year where the like whole COVID thing came out with like because it was like the China virus and everything. So a lot of people there was a lot of like I guess like racism to like Chinese people or who people perceive to be Chinese, so like anyone that was Asian. So there was a lot of like people beating Asians up, like making fun of them. Like even now with like how there's like South African like you're not supposed to call like because we're trying to reduce the stigma, so we're not trying to call them by like the place where the variant came from, but like for example, the South African or the like UK variant, no one's like attacking UK people or no one's attacking South African people, but like in February of 2020, a lot of people like stopped eating at like Chinese food restaurants, like and like business was like way down for a lot of like Chinese restaurants, like a lot of Asian restaurants even too, because people were like very like, oh, they started this, they're going to bring the virus into this country and all that, like into like the food that they're cooking, so I'm not going to buy from them. So a lot of businesses suffered and closed down because of it. But going back to the whole Black Lives Matter thing, I think we're moving, like that was good. I think that was something that was like years and years of like pent
In the
up.
comic.
Yeah,
And
like
now racism is over and now everything's okay.
except it's not. Like I feel so me I was talking to Maggie about this like earlier this week, where it's like people are now scared to, I guess, say racist things towards like black people, but it doesn't mean that racism has ended. They either just don't say it to their faces, or they just make fun of like other people and they think it's okay. And the whole like black people are also then racist towards Asian people as well, where they'll like openly make fun of them and joke about them.
Side story, like I was on Facebook at the height of like COVID and stuff. Side note, if you want to guess if anyone is racist, just see if they have Facebook. Like 70% of the time, I'm sure they're racist. And all the memes that people were sharing were just like, oh, like that China virus, haha. And people, like this one guy, he just shared like a friendly message, like, hey, just because like coronavirus is going on, like we're all scared, like this isn't the time or place to blame a certain country or ethnicity. Like, don't be racist. It's still like the key point here. Don't be a shitty person. And it literally was a controversial statement of him to do that. People were like piling on him, like, no, this is perfect. Like, we need to blame the Chinese. Like, all Asians are disgusting. Like, they eat gross food. And I'm like, what the hell is Facebook now? So toxic. This sucks. And then the Black Lives Matter movement, like, to your point, even though people were afraid of saying things against Black people, like, they were still, like, jabbing at Asian people. Not to say that like one or the other is like you just shouldn't be racist. That's what I'm trying to say here. Like that Black Lives Matter thing, it just goes to show that you can't get away with saying things or like not being racist to just black people. You just don't be a shitty person.
Yeah, it's funny though because I remember seeing some stuff on Reddit where this person was like active, like their like Twitter bio was like Black Lives Matter, like hashtag like all those things where it's like they're trying like they're supporting the movement and everything, but then like a lot of their tweets are like making fun of like other races. Okay, like I think we're missing the point a little bit here.
I think because it was like such a trending social media movement, a lot of people jumped on it for the clout.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people genuinely believed in it. And I think they weren't aware enough to realize that their actions had microaggressions in them or passive aggressive racist statements that they just were like, oh, I see everyone else jumping on this. I'm going to do it too. I'm not going to be the one to be the odd one out. I'll just do it.
Yeah, maybe we need an Asian Lives Matter.
That isn't to say that Asians are people who are sweet and innocent all the time, too. I think Asians are also part of the problem. They're also very racist. I don't know about you, but Vietnamese people are so racist. Like they hate being mixed up with Chinese people so much. And they're like, "No, like we're not Chinese. Like we're nothing like them." My mom has something racist to say about almost every race,
Including her own.
including her own. Literally no one will make her happy.
It's funny because like I remember how my parents or like my dad was like, he's met Maggie and he's like, oh, like she does look like a little bit Chinese. And my dad's like, I'm like sure that she has like Chinese ancestors. And what do you know? If you look at her 23 and me, my
I'm
dad
like
was right.
20% Chinese. My mom was always like, no, we're pure Vietnamese. Like, don't let anyone tell you differently. Based on our last names, like, go up to anyone. Like, our family is very proud. Like, we're Vietnamese. And it turns out I'm like 20% Chinese. So somewhere in these family trees, someone fornicated with the enemy. Enemy. I put that in quotes.
It wouldn't have even been that long ago because like it says that my Korean ancestor was like the 1920s ish era. So
Hmm.
like and I'm only like 12%. So if you're 20%, it was probably like recently too. Like your mom probably met them.
Yeah.
So
She just didn't know it at the time.
Something to keep in mind. You never know who you're meeting.
Asians are, yeah, one of the most racist. Asian on Asian. Like, we are all people of color. Why are you gonna be racist to other people?
Race mixing. This is why race mixing is good.
I Yes, race mixing I'm sure is good in theory, but even think about like the way we grew up. Like we weren't race mixed. We grew up in a completely different environment and we still didn't really fit in with white people or Asian people. White people wouldn't consider us theirs. Asian people didn't really accept us either. I think we're both pretty similar
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know. Like to me I just felt like I couldn't fit in with like Asian people. Like people who were like us, like Asian Canadian or grew up in a like predominantly white community, I think I fit in best with those people.
Yeah, it's a very small niche of people that we fit into. But if everyone is, I guess, more multicultural, then how
If
do
we
you?
all erase history, then you know what? No racism.
Yeah, easy, easy problem.
Easy, erase history. Remember your culture, but erase history. So our whole topic is you're not Asian enough. Um, this goes back to Asian representation as well. So recently, I was reading about the topic of like Asian actresses. Shout out to Christina who commented this below on our episode too. She was commenting about Asian representation, like where do we see it? And growing up, I don't think we had a lot of Asian representation. I think the one actress we had was Lucy Liu. Can you think of anyone else? Brenda's song on The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, it was never mentioned that she was Asian. Like, yes, we knew she was, but they never really talked about it.
But I guess that's good because they never talked
Yes.
about how Cody and Zach were white. So like it'd
I
be a
think
bit weird.
yes, it would be weird, but I think what was really great about kids' TV shows was that they always like slip in like subtle diversity or like subtle positive messages here and there that weren't so upfront in your face about it. Like I learned about Diwali, I learned about Hanukkah, I learned about even Chinese New Year's, Lunar New Year's, in like episodes on TVs growing up. So I think that was pretty nice growing up. I would have wanted to see, more Asian representation though. So funny story about Crazy Rich Asians. A bunch of these actresses, I don't know if you remember, came out and they were like, "Oh, I wasn't even considered for the role. I wanted to audition. I wanted to be part of history, and I was told I wasn't Asian enough. That I had a white look about me." And Brenda Song had said this. Jamie Chung had said this as well. And I'm sure there are more.
Like I understand where like the producers or the directors or the casting people like were coming from when they say that they like Brenda Song and Jamie Chung aren't Asian enough because I feel like I'm not Asian enough too. And I like identify with like Brenda Song and Jamie Chung, but I don't really identify with people in the movie. Even though the main guy is like half white. Wait a second.
Yeah.
So you're telling me
There
that
was a lot of anger about him being cast too because they were like, I thought this was supposed to be an Asian movie. It's a little bit sensitive, this issue. Like, there's no right or wrong. I think like where it's kind of like it goes back to your race mixing thing. Like the problem isn't solved when we race mix. Like Henry Goldring, he is half white, half Malaysian, I think, and look, like people were angry he was cast, even though he looks Asian. White people probably won't cast him in their like James Bond male lead, so white people won't accept him. The Asians won't accept him. He's, I'm sure, caught in a tricky situation too.
this also might be like a sexist thing as well though because all of the females on like in the movie are very much like stereotypically Asian. But then if you look at a lot of the male cast, it's like people like Ken Jeong, where you would say he's very like Asian American. And then like the lead guy who is like half white, half Asian. So I feel like guys are given more of a pass culturally than women are.
I think too, like their trend is casting, the stereotype of Asian people, like the lights, the fair skinned,
Yes.
um, like tall, small, tiny, very skinny, like
Mm-hmm.
jet black hair, um, like red lips, like they just naturally look like a stereotypical Asian beauty. I think that's where the Hollywood comes into. They don't want people who look a little bit different.
And
They want people who are bananas or that Asian beauty standard.
yeah, I think that's the two sides of the spectrum. You either have the banana, which is like white on the inside, yellow on the outside, or you have like the stereotypical Asian beauty, which is like skinny, fair skinned, like luscious hair, like that.
Like, damn, dude, I can't be all these. I'm just trying to be a human being.
Yeah, and it's like even like yes, we're getting more like representation like in the last few years, but if you look at the representation, a lot of it is still, I guess, within the spectrum.
Day by day, we are definitely getting there. I don't know if it's you too. Like if I'm in a new setting, that I tend to gravitate to people who I think I would have the most in common with. So it just happens to be like the person of color in the room or the person who looks young and is a person of color. And then right away I think like, oh, we're gonna be great friends. Or like I'm gonna like force this friendship on them.
It's kind of funny because when I was in undergrad, a lot of my like good friends were not people who looked like me. Like, well, to be fair, there's only like 90%, 95% of the program was like men, and like 90% of the program was white men. So like it was
Ah, you believing you are a white man.
so it was kind of hard to find people who looked like me and like
Fair.
that I would be friends with. So a lot of my friends ended up being like white guys. But then like one of my like better friends, I guess, was like someone who I kept in contact with for like all 5 years. He was like half Asian. And like even in my MBA program in the beginning, like most of the people that I talked to were white. And then but eventually like the people that I'm closest to now are Asians. So weird how that like happened, like I guess naturally.
I'm sure there were a lot of factors that came into it too, but yeah, I've noticed similar things too. Like growing up, all my friends were white, and then it's like a huge switch where everyone just turned Asian. I don't
Maybe
really fit into any of the Asian stereotypes. I don't think either of us. Maybe like the basic white girl one, like the sorority Asian girl. I think maybe that's where we fit in, but not really.
it's weird, which is I think is terrible. The fact that we have so many like I guess types of Asian girls.
Why do we need like six different types of Asian girls? Like, I'm sorry, now I don't fit into any of them. Now I'm gonna have another identity crisis. What the hell?
Yeah, I think that's the weirdest part. It's just like watching those videos where like I know they're just like jest and like it's fun and everything. Like but being like, "Oh, you're not the one that comes from money, the fresh off the boat kind of girl. You're not the like this nerd that studies like super hard girl.
You're not the party
You're not
girl.
the party girl. You're not the Asian baby girl." But it's like I feel like we're like we shouldn't be reduced down to just stereotype. I feel like this happens with every single like because they do this for like gay people as well.
Oh
The
yeah, the
six
twinks and
types
the
of
bottoms,
guys.
power bottoms. Yeah,
Exactly. Like the like
people just want to label us so bad.
yeah, and it's like I feel like that gives people like issues with like their identity because they're like, "Oh, if this is the six types, like I don't fit into any of them or like I identify with like some of these but not all of it." It's like then who am I? Good
Like it's
weird.
it's so hard for people to see that people are 3D
Yeah.
and they're not two-dimensional. This isn't a sitcom. We're not all two-dimensional. There's no laugh track here. I will maybe clap for you, but that's it. Like when you date like a new guy or something, now you have to figure out like were his exes all Asian?
Oh
Like
my
like
god.
who is he into? Like are you just fetishizing me? Like where is the line here?
Yeah, I guess it's a very thin line between, oh, I just like Asian girls and I like you for who you are.
Yes. Like I get it that people maybe have preferences, and I guess that's okay. I used to think that preferences were racist. I still kind of do, but I get it now.
Yeah.
Like yeah, a preference for a specific like you don't want to date like Asian girls or something. People have said this to my face, by the way. This is also not okay to do. I don't know why people are saying this to me. Like I wasn't gonna consider you anyways. Like on behalf of the Asian girls, we're good. We don't need you. Um, but yeah, like I think it's very tricky these days because if you want to date a white guy, other people are going to see him and they're going to be like, oh, he's only dating you because he's into Asian girls. Like, that's the sole reason why. Like, not for my amazing personality or my hot body or something like that, just because he just wants to be with an Asian girl.
It's always like suspicious if like the ex is also Asian. Then you just like it, then you have
Yes.
like this internalized like monologue of like, does he like me for me or does he like me because he likes Asian girls? And then you can never like, even if they like don't say it, you still think it. Like even if they don't admit it and like they've like said no, like I like you for who you are, or, like I don't have an Asian girl thing. It's always like something that you think about in the back of your
Like, are
head.
you sure? Are you sure this wasn't like your fetish at one point? Is this like your go to like porn thing? Like, come on, just be honest with us.
Yeah.
And I think another thing too is like, I don't want to be the first person of color that the guy has dated.
Why?
And I know that sounds weird because I don't want to have to like train him on what's okay to do. Like, you would be surprised at how like people suck. Like, people just don't know the basics thing. Like, I don't want to have to remind you of like things you're supposed to do for my, not even for my culture, just basic manners. I feel like, by the way, you have to say hi to my mom. By the way, like, you should do this. By the way, like, it's just like very little things that I'm like, I feel like people didn't know this. Like, my white friends for sure didn't know this growing up. And I would like have to remind them, like, by the way, like, say hi to my mom. And they'd be like, oh, that's such an Asian thing.
What?
I'm like, oh,
That's a that's like a manners
it's a
thing.
common decency thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe that was a bad example, but I think it's like, I think it would be easy to date someone who knew your culture, who knew like the do's and don'ts. So that's why I'm like, okay, like, maybe being with someone who also understood that would be easier than versus someone who had no idea and was just kind of closed minded. But then again, you wouldn't date someone like that.
Yeah, I think that's a thing. I think you just have like I'm okay with being like the first like ethnic person someone dates. Like as long as the person has like an open mind about things and is like willing to learn about like things that are okay and like are not okay. Like even if like there's some things that they might say that like they don't realize are inconsiderate, as long as you're like, hey, like that's not cool, then they're like, oh my God, I'm so
Like,
sorry. I
cut that
didn't
shit out.
yeah,
Don't
like
do
I
that
didn't
ever again
realize.
around me.
Because it's like someone has to do it. Like you can't
Yeah.
just rely on other girls or guys to like break in your next significant other.
That was the thing on TikTok.
What?
They were like, they were like, do you know how long it took me to break in my boyfriend? Like, whoever gets him next, like, like, you should be so happy. You should thank your boyfriend's previous girlfriend for breaking him in, because people just like don't. They said that boys particularly just don't have like common sense
That's
or
so
like
terrible.
basic rules or whatever it is to go about your daily life. So the girls have to break them in.
So I the other thing I guess is like just because you dated an Asian girl in the past, it does not mean your next girlfriend will also want the exact same things that like your ex-girlfriend did. Make sure you're not just saying, well, like my ex-girlfriend said this, and it's like,
Well,
okay,
why don't you go back to your ex girlfriend then, asshole?
yeah, like it doesn't matter. Like we're still like even though we have like the same cultural background, it doesn't mean that we don't have our own likes and dislikes.
So just to summarize, don't be racist. Representation matters. Stop asking us where we're from. Be a good person, but also know that everyone is three dimensional. Just because you don't fit into someone's stereotype or subset doesn't mean that you aren't your own person. You have your own subset.
Be
We
okay.
ended racism with this episode.
I
Please go
hope
back and reevaluate yourself.
I hope at least like someone else can identify with some of the things that we talked about in this episode. You didn't think about like if you didn't think about these things in the past and like maybe like start your own reflection journey.
Yeah, if you think we were wrong about something, send us an email. Let us know. We will be more than glad to correct ourselves or open up. We're all learning in the process. Let us know what else we should talk about, because apparently we do not agree about everything. And we do.
Because we're even though we're slowly morphing into the same person.
So to close this off, what advice do you have for someone struggling with their own identity? Did you relate to any of these experiences that we went through? How did you handle it? How do you best handle racist comments? Let us know in the comments. I would love to know.
Maggie was pointing down the comment
I'm
section.
to the podcast to the podcast listeners. I am gesturing down. I completely forgot.
So just leave comments wherever you get your podcast, wherever you send us an email. If like we would like to know too how to best handle these backhanded compliments, how to best handle like passive aggressive racism.
Subscribe to us on YouTube. Come watch
Maybe
the actual clip. We were really fun.
maybe next week's will be funnier.
How dare
We
you?
gotta alternate between deep topics and
We
humor.
gotta be hot and cold. Gotta keep the people wanting more.
Yeah, we gotta like
Right.
it's.
We're not gonna let the white man be the funny episode. We're funny on our own.
I guess to sum it all up, those were the questions that
How
we're
many
posing.
times are we summing this?
Oh my god. Okay, so comment wherever you get your podcast, like us wherever you get your podcast, follow us on our Linktree link on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and any other social media that is up and coming. Maggie will be on it. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week, and happy Lunar New Year.
Woohoo! Happy Year of the Ox, guys.
Bye.
Let's make 2021 our year.
Yes. Well, make every year your year.
Okay. No need to one-up me.
It's always a competition.
Okay, thanks for listening, guys. Bye!